The world has been divided. Zeus rules the sky, Poseidon commands the seas, and Hades governs the realm of the dead. But borders named in victory mean nothing without faces to guard them. Power without personality is just empty thunder. For the new age to truly begin, every force that moves through creation must find its divine voice. You know how it is when a family moves into a house that's too big for them? At first, the empty rooms echo with promise, but slowly, one by one, those rooms fill up. Cousins arrive. Old friends claim a corner. Before you know it, what started as three brothers sharing space becomes something much more complicated, much more alive. That's exactly what happened to Olympus. Zeus had claimed Olympus, yes, but a king without a court is just a man shouting at clouds. The brother kings needed more than divine muscle to rule creation. They needed gods for the farmer praying over dying wheat, gods for the warrior sharpening his spear, gods for the young girl braiding flowers into her hair, dreaming of love. And somewhere, the fates, those ancient weavers, were already spinning the threads. The family was already there, of course. Hera stood beside Zeus, her presence both challenge and completion. Every marriage that would ever exist lived in the space between their glances, sometimes tender, sometimes sharp enough to cut stone. Demeter walked the shared earth, her fingers trailing green life wherever mortals would need grain and fruit and the hope of another harvest. And Hestia, quiet Hestia, kept the hearth fire burning at the center of it all. Not the loudest voice in the room, but somehow the most necessary. But creation needed more than grain and fire and royal marriage. It needed gods for the wild places, gods for deep thoughts, gods for the moments when humans reach beyond themselves and grasp something they can't name. So the stories began. First came wisdom itself, wearing armor and carrying a spear. Some say Athena sprang fully formed from Zeus's skull after he swallowed her mother, already heavy with thought and fate. Others whispered different tales. But however she arrived, when she opened her gray eyes for the first time, every strategy that would ever win a battle already lived behind them. Every clever solution, every moment when the weak would outwit the strong. Zeus looked at his daughter and saw something that terrified and thrilled him in equal measure. Intelligence sharp enough to cut through any lie, including his own. Apollo followed like sunrise after long darkness, golden-haired, silver-tongued, with music flowing from his fingers and prophecy dancing on his lips. When he played his lyre, even the stones of Olympus hummed in harmony. When he spoke of the future, his words carried the weight of truth. But truth, as Zeus was learning, isn't always gentle. Apollo's beauty charmed everyone who saw him, but his honesty had edges that could draw blood. His twin sister Artemis arrived like moonlight through forest leaves, wild where he was polished, silent where he sang. She claimed the hunt, the chase, the fierce independence that runs through untamed places. Her bow never missed. Her pack of silver deer followed her through shadows where mortal hunters feared to tread. She knelt before Zeus once, just once, to ask for eternal maidenhood. He granted it, though something in her eyes suggested she would have taken it regardless of his answer. Then came war itself, hungry and laughing. Ares burst into the halls of Olympus like a blood-stained whirlwind, boasting of battles yet to come. Where Athena planned, he charged. Where she calculated, he roared. Zeus watched his son with the complicated pride of a father who sees his own worst impulses reflected in young eyes. Ares represented every fight that would ever start over wounded pride, every clash where honor mattered more than sense. But the most dangerous arrival came wrapped in beauty so perfect it almost hurt to look at. Aphrodite stepped onto Olympus, and suddenly every god remembered what it felt like to want something they couldn't have. Some say she rose from sea foam where old blood fell into the waves. Others tell a different beginning. The truth mattered less than her effect. When she smiled, carefully chosen marriages trembled. When she laughed, sworn enemies found themselves stealing glances across the room. Then there was Hephaestus, limping up the mountain path with soot under his fingernails and scars from the forge marking his arms. Where the others claimed beauty or strength or wisdom, he offered something different: skill, the ability to take raw metal and raw dreams and hammer them into something that could change the world. His workshop beneath Olympus rang with the sound of creation itself. Every tool that would ever make life easier, every weapon that would ever defend the innocent, every piece of jewelry that would ever make someone feel beautiful. He made them all. And then, like quicksilver through cracks in stone, came Hermes, part messenger, part thief, part divine joke told at everyone else's expense. He could cross any boundary, enter any locked room, deliver any message to any destination. He belonged everywhere and nowhere, which made him indispensable and completely untrustworthy. Zeus loved him for it. The others weren't quite sure what to do with him. Now you have to understand what this meant. The world wasn't just ruled anymore, it was inhabited. Each force that moved through mortal life now had a face on Olympus, a mood, a temper, a way of being pleased or offended. The farmer whose wheat withered in drought knew to pray to Demeter. The soldier heading into battle could choose between Athena's careful strategy or Ares' wild courage. The young woman wondering if her lover would prove faithful could light candles for Aphrodite and hope for mercy. The smith forging a horseshoe worked with Hephaestus guiding his hammer. Even a message carried across a city, whisper to ear, footstep to doorstep, belonged to Hermes before it belonged to anyone else. But gods, as it turns out, have personalities, and personalities clash. Zeus and Hera circled each other like storm clouds building toward lightning. He demanded loyalty but couldn't offer fidelity. She commanded respect but wouldn't accept subjugation. Their arguments shook the mountain. Their reconciliations set the sky ablaze with beautiful, dangerous light. Poseidon found himself growing jealous of his brother's swelling court. The sea was vast and powerful, yes, but it was also lonely. And one day, when mortals would raise a great city and beg the gods to bless it, that jealousy would find a name and a battleground. Ares and Athena could barely stand to breathe the same air. He saw her measured approach to war as cowardice. She saw his blood-drunk charges as stupidity. They were both right, in their way. They were both wrong. Apollo and Artemis loved each other with the fierce loyalty of twins, but they carried opposite truths. His light revealed, her shadows protected. When mortals offended one of them, the other's defense would be swift and merciless. Aphrodite stirred trouble simply by existing. She couldn't help it. Desire follows its own logic, completely separate from wisdom or honor or family loyalty. Hephaestus watched the beautiful gods with eyes that missed nothing and forgave very little. And Hermes? Hermes carried words between all of them, adding his own little turns of phrase, nudging a sentence here, sharpening a meaning there, just to see what would happen. This was Olympus now. Not just three brothers sharing power, but a full divine household with all the complicated dynamics that come with family. Seating arrangements at the great table mattered. Who Zeus consulted first mattered. Which gods Hera invited close and which ones she pointedly ignored mattered more than anyone wanted to admit. The old chaos was gone, yes, but it had been replaced by something far more delicate. Immortal rivalries, alliances that could shift with a glance, and grudges that might last longer than mountains. Hestia, wise Hestia, watched it all from her place by the eternal flame. She understood what the others were still learning. Power shared becomes power multiplied, but it also becomes power that must be negotiated again and again, day after day, forever. The world now had a god for every force that moved through it, but those gods had to learn to live with each other, and learning to live with family, whether mortal or divine, is never simple. Soon enough, Zeus would discover just how complicated it could become. Because when you give divine beings roles and borders and expect them to stay inside them, someone always tests the edge.